Welcome to Ohio Roots, the official podcast of the Ohio Genealogical Society. Join us as we embark on a captivating journey through Ohio's rich genealogy, history, and abundant resources. Hosted by me, OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, this podcast brings you insightful conversations with a diverse array of guests, from OGS members, chapter leaders, and staff to renowned genealogists, historians, and influential figures within the genealogical community. Each episode delves into fascinating topics and captivating stories. So grab your headphones, hit that play button, and join us on this enthralling journey of Ohio's roots. On today's episode of the Ohio Roots podcast, we're speaking with Lili McCutchan of the Ohio Genealogical Society. Lili is the Vice President of Development. She's the Chairman of the Technology Committee, and she's a member of the OGS Board of Trustees. I asked Lili to join us so we could have a conversation about the Ohio Genealogical Society and what we do, where we're headed, what we need, things like that. I hope you enjoy this conversation today with Lili McCutchan. Well, Lili McCutchan, thank you so much for joining me on the Ohio Roots podcast today to talk about OGS, kind of what we are, where we're going, and how we need to get there. So I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, appreciate it. First question I ask every guest is how they got interested and involved in genealogy. What was the thing that instigated their interest and their passion?
Well, compared to probably most of our peers in that industry, I'm a relative newcomer. It was probably about 10 years ago or so. I had some surgery, was laid up, ran out of Netflix, and decided to go through the boxes and boxes and boxes that were gifted to me from my in-laws. And found all kinds of fun and interesting mysteries that I didn't always believe all of them, and had to track that down because I'm a skeptic. So,
and you did that with your in-laws first, huh?
I did. So there's some mistakes in that, but I moved on to my side of the family that had absolutely no research, and that line's a little bit better now.
Yeah, well, that's fun. That's a good way to get started. Not being laid up, but at least starting with a family that isn't your own. That way, you don't have to worry too much about the horrible stories that might come up.
That's right.
We're here to talk about the Ohio Genealogical Society because one of the things we've done well over 30 episodes of the Ohio Roots podcast now. We've talked a lot about other organizations and museums and individuals, but I thought it'd be nice for us to have a chat about the Ohio Genealogical Society and who we are. So talk to me about who the OGS is and what we're about.
Well, I am now a proud board member and got drafted into service when I was using OGS for research. And we're a 501c3. We have about 3,000 or so members, 85 or so chapters. We're looking at affiliate chapters now. And we're trying to grow that. We're trying to preserve what we have. We're trying to grow our assets. And we need a strong board and a strong development committee to do that. And that's really our push this year.
Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, when we say we need a strong board and a strong development committee, what are the characteristics and characters and individuals and personalities that make those things strong?
Well, I think we need people that are not only well connected in the family history and genealogical world, but have gifts and talents in finance and legal and accounting. You know, there are gifts and strengths that everybody can give. Not one person has all those talents, and so we need to look at the diversity of the board, their different backgrounds, and I think everybody is able to give. I like to do it because I feel like I'm giving back to my hobby. I come from a business background, so I look at it from a business standpoint, but we need people that can not only give time and money and all kinds of gifts and talents, and so I look at it as sort of giving back to the hobby that we all enjoy.
Right. And I know one of the challenges, when I came on board at the Ohio Genealogical Society was we were trying to transition essentially from a working board, so from a board that managed essentially day-to-day activities of the society, to a board that is more involved in the back end side of things, the support aspects of it, And then the hiring of an executive director position was designed to kind of alleviate the board of those responsibilities, those day-to-day responsibilities, so they could focus on things like fundraising, development, legal things like you discussed. And that's a challenge because I know traditional board members in the past, both for OGS and for others, sometimes have a difficult time transitioning from a working board to a responsible board, essentially. How has that been? How have you seen that unfold with OGS?
Well, and I'm always trying to educate myself and learn and unfold. I started as a working member of the Technology Committee, and I still hold a very active role in that. So I am a hands-on working person.
Right.
I have selfishly, because I want to see that activity, I don't want to say go away, but I think we need to build out the technology. When we get to looking at our mission and our statement of being the primary gateway and portal for all of Ohio's genealogical research, I'm paraphrasing that. I'm not doing a great quote. I'm committed to the development side so that we can have a board that is able to be responsible for the growth and the preservation and the future of it, and take less time for me to be involved in day-to-day technical activities,
Right.
which I still am, but I want to grow my position. So,
well, and I know we've talked over the years about OGS has made a significant investment in the technology side of the business of genealogy, and I think those folks who are not members of OGS and many of our existing members may not even be aware of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of digital resources that are available to them that have been made available to them on the OGS website over the last several years. I mean, that of course includes things like digital manuscripts, digital books, finding aids, the library catalog. But now, of course, as we've grown it over the last few years and invested in it, it includes things like webinars. It includes things like this podcast, which we hope will reach a larger audience. And so the investment is gone on, but the investment gets more expensive. It seems like the more we want to make it work well and easily for members and the public as well, of course, it gets more and more expensive to do so.
Absolutely. And, kudos to our staff, Linda Swanson and Jenna Kish. They have added so much to the resources. And again, they have done webinars and podcasts to help people find those things. I learn something new all the time about what we've added to our resources. If I'm still finding out about it, I think the general public and our members probably don't know how much we've added in the last, I'd say, 3 to 5 years that's available. And it takes time and money and all kinds of stuff to get that done. And we've done a whole lot with very little.
One of the things I like to talk to folks about when they ask me about why they should become a member. And I tell them, of course, all of the bullet point, 10-second elevator pitch aspects of becoming an OGS member. But at the same time, one of the things I like to tell them is that it's a community, and OGS does its best to support that community. It's not just about individual genealogists working at the OGS library or using our resources. It's also about those 80-some chapters and affiliate chapters that are scattered across the state, and in some cases in other states that are out there as a resource. Thank you to you for setting up the events calendar on the OGS website. But all you have to do is peruse that website and that calendar for a little while to realize just how much activity and programs are being done by our member chapters out there as well. And I think that's part of being an OGS member as well, is recognizing that you're part of that larger community. And I think it's not just about what's the word I'm looking for, Lili? It's not just a transactional relationship between you give me your dues money and you get X things. You give your dues money, you support all these efforts we're doing, but it also makes you a part of this larger community. Have you felt that? I mean, I know you travel to chapter meetings and things.
I was just going to give an example, and I'll give a shout out to Logan County. Their my hometown is Bell Fountain, but I just had the opportunity to go speak with on their annual membership meeting and give them your PowerPoint, and I tweaked it a little bit to include things that we could do to enhance the Logan County chapter. And it was a lot of stuff. It was the first time they'd been hearing about it, the community events calendar, the webinars, the podcasts. There was a woman there that wondered, she wrote and donated a book to OGS and wondered what happened to it because she hadn't checked on it in 100 years. Right. And again, thanks to our upgrades in our technology and Linda, I was able to pull it up on our library catalog, show her where it was, how to find it if she ever comes up. And those are things that meant a lot to our chapters. In the same vein, I tried to ask them, do the 8 for 88.
Right.
And had Linda help me write some verbiage around that. Sure. And they were very excited about it. So again, it's stuff we've been doing, but we just sometimes need to get the word out. And I'm anxious to do that.
I'll tell you what, let's do the 8 for 88. Tell people what that is, because I'm not sure everybody knows.
Well, I don't do it justice. Linda's the one that talks about it, but it's for 88 counties. We would like to have 8 digital assets of something that particular chapter has, whether it's a cemetery index or something that they have published and have the rights to, and allow OGS to put it up in our catalog or finding aids. And it can look a little different depending upon what it is they want to put out there with us, but give us the ability to, let them shine on what they've published in a bigger forum. So
sure. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing whenever I talk to chapters about the chapter calendar, the events calendar. The more events that are on there, the more it will get crawled by search engines and things like that. The more events that are on there, the more valuable the calendar becomes, both to us, but also to them. And I think it gives them a much larger exposure, given the website traffic that we have, as opposed to necessarily going to a chapter's website. So, those are those kind of intangible benefits that I think maybe chapters don't realize that are there, that by having that affiliation with OGS formally, their chapter gets a little more notice technically.
Well, and I've also had several inquiries about our new offering to chapters that don't necessarily want to host their own website anymore. There have been struggles with it. It's not kept up, it's static, or it's roots web, and they can't do anything with it. And, that's something that we've added value to our chapters for smaller chapters. Right. We can host that for them. We can help them with a, one-page, easy access, and it gets I'm willing to bet, far more traffic than, their outdated Weebly site that hasn't been updated in forever and has lost the URL connections and...
Yeah, I mean, and I think we talk about wanting to improve technology, but one of the challenges that we face every day, because you do as well with our website, is the fact technology changes dramatically, almost on an instant.
It does.
You can come in one day and everything's working fine, and come in the next day and nothing is working.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I know. So I think sometimes it's a challenge for someone at a smaller chapter, maybe to be able to manage that and keep track of those things.
And it's a security issue for them. They're sharing passwords and doing things to struggle along, and it does become a security issue for that chapter, which can be dangerous. So
and I know there are a lot of chapters that are losing members. A lot of that's through attrition, honestly. A lot of that is just people are aging out of the chapter. But by having a strong and robust online presence, whether that's with a website of their own or with us perhaps in the future, or it's a robust social media presence, there's an opportunity there for them to attract a younger generation to what they're doing. I think a great example is someone like Carroll County who's making an effort to do that.
Yep. And I've seen a little bit of an uptick in people like to have their lineage societies that their members join. I've seen an uptick in younger members, parents that are signing their kids up at very young ages, at 4-H clubs that are doing genealogy related, projects.
Yeah.
And I think we need to tap into that. You mentioned new technology. We need to tap into artificial intelligence. We need to grow in lots of ways that take time and money.
Right. Hi, this is OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, and I'm cordially inviting you to stay home, put on your comfiest pajamas, and do not attend our annual no-show ball. That's right, no fancy clothes, no parking hassles, no small talk, just the satisfaction of supporting a great cause from the comfort of your couch. And what's on the agenda for this year's no-show ball? Absolutely nothing. No dinner to dress up for, no speeches to sit through, no dance moves required. But don't worry, while you enjoy your evening off, your generosity will be hard at work supporting the Ohio Genealogical Society. And this is how you do it. You stay home. You literally do anything else, and then you donate. And you can donate today at www.ogs.org/donate and use the 2024 No-Show Ball cause as your selection. No babysitter, no problem, no shoes, no problem. Thank you for not attending the No-Show Ball, but thank you for supporting the Ohio Genealogical Society. Well, let's talk about the money. I mean, OGS is a fairly large organization budget-wise. A lot of that budget money is made up through membership dues and dollars. There are other avenues of income as well. What are you seeing, looking down the pike from a development standpoint? Where are we headed?
Well, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about nonprofits and endowment funds specifically. Mm-hmm. And people look and say, "Oh, your endowment funds." Well, the endowment fund is not meant to handle the day-to-day operations for, unfortunate emergencies like our air conditioning going out. And we need to grow that, and it's something that we need to look to our members, and the development committee will help with that. But through planned giving and grants and larger donations that really are the crux of that. And if we're not able to continue to grow that endowment fund, it's what we need to preserve Ohio's future. I mean, the memberships go a long way in helping us pay for staff and day-to-day operations and that kind of thing. But it's not something that's going to sustain us long term. Right. Yeah. And I think that also, when you look at the pattern and the trends in the nonprofit social organization world, generations younger than us are not joiners in that sense, in the sense that we were, or our parents may have been. So it's a challenge to get that as as your expenses go up with things like technology and inflation and all these other things, your membership stays relatively flat. And it's very difficult to attract those younger generations into an organization unless you're doing it in person. And that gets to some of your schools and outreach aspects of it, which, again, as we talked about, cost money. And I think it's telling the story and tying people's passion for what they do into why is it important to give back to OGS. Right. Yeah. A membership is great. It's a great start. Yeah. But if you want your large collection that none of your grandchildren want to be preserved, forever, and it's got not only your family, but a lot of, whatever county history in it. It's not transactional, but we do need the support to be able to preserve that. And that's something I talk to folks a lot about, either both in person, but also sometimes on social media. I'll show what a collection looks like when we get it. And we all have those boxes. If you could see behind me, Lily, you'd see all of mine. Boxes full of this stuff. But when it comes to us at OGS, we have a responsibility that is different from you as a private person. And our responsibility involves archive quality materials to house that in. It requires an archive quality finding aid for the record. And all of that costs money and time. And the staff labor to sort through is valuable. I mean, I know I've walked up there and seen new deliveries that have flower vases in it of no particular value. And it takes time and staff to sort through that and find things that are just absolute gold for
Right.
researchers.
Well, and that's just it. There are some amazing resources. That gets me kind of to another topic. Online research, which is kind of blown up, in the last 15 years, and I think COVID even pushed it further into the realm of what people are doing genealogically. There's still no replacing physically going to a library or an archive and going through the resources that are available there. Naturally, not everything is going to be on Family Search or Ancestry or Fold3 or Heritage.
No, and we'll never be Ancestry or
Right.
Family Search. That's not our goal.
Right.
So
So you need to physically come to the library to go through those resources, and I think that that's something. It's hard to promote that necessarily. If you're listening and you're in Ohio, the OGS library is in Belleville, Ohio, which is maybe 2.5 hours at the most from almost anywhere in Ohio, depending on how fast you drive and what traffic's like where you live. But it's not that far to go to spend a day going through the resources, and we make it easy for you because you can go to the OGS website, you can look at the library catalog, you can look at the finding aids that are there for the archive, you can make a list of those things you think you're going to want to look at while you're at the library. So there's an opportunity there for that physical visitation to the library that I think, unfortunately, we've lost as a result of technology.
Well, and yeah, we've all had that moment where, and I know I have gone to the library and found something that, I couldn't have found elsewhere. And a shout out to our yearbook collection.
Right.
I recently found some gold in those, and they are housed at the OGS library. So
that's getting into the tens and tens of thousands of volumes at the moment. We're going to need a whole wing just for that at some point.
I know Aaron's done a little too good of a job.
So got a lot. I mean, so I look at OGS again. We've been kind of going back and forth a little bit about this transactional idea. I belong to a lot of organizations that I don't get a thing from.
Right.
And I do that because I believe what they're doing is important in the bigger picture of where we are.
And that's the message we need to get out.
Right. And I think as we look at our own personal, because, there's history, a history museum or that. But when you're talking about genealogy, you're really talking about your own personal history and your own personal history and your family's history as it relates to all of those great historical events throughout time.
I was going to say, as it relates to...
Right. So if you can't support that, your own personal Ohio history, that's a tough thing to not want to support, I would think. And yes, you get things from us for being a member, and that's great and wonderful. But the reality is, by becoming a member, you're supporting that larger effort to not just preserve your personal history, but everybody's in Ohio. And outside. That's something you look at how many people who grew up in Ohio and where they live now. I mean, you're looking at states like Texas and Florida and California and Michigan, God forbid, and other places. Right. So the Ohio Genealogical Society isn't just preserving Ohio history and Ohio genealogy. We have tendrils that reach out everywhere, and a lot of them come back to Ohio in our library.
And I'm willing to bet, I'll make up numbers here, 75% of people that moved out west probably at some point came through Ohio.
Right.
I mean, whether it was a canal or Lake Erie or something.
Right. I mean,
gateway.
I just look at communities where I am. I live in New Philadelphia, Ohio, which at the turn of the 20th century, you had steel mills and coal mines and clay mines and clay factories. Well, they all shut down in the 20th century. And all those people went away.
Right.
Where did they go? But their roots were here. Many of them first-time immigrants.
Right.
If your family was a first-time immigrant, you're going to find them here in Ohio, in a lot of cases.
And the stories and resources that are associated with people's Ancestry.com research are some of the things. They've bought books on canals, and they have ledgers from pharmacies that list all the people in New Philadelphia. Again, it's those types of genealogical gold that maybe you don't necessarily go to research for your family, but they donated a ledger book from somebody's uncle's bar tab, and it has every neighbor that went to that bar listed, and you can place them there, and it's it's evidence for a lineage society in some cases.
One of my favorite stories from my own family history, and I do a webinar on it for OGS, is my great-great-great-grandfather, Jonathan G. Murphy, who was from Ireland. Well, he's from Delaware, moved to Pennsylvania, fought in the Civil War, eventually settled in Northern Virginia. But when he was living in Northern Virginia, he wrote a long book of poetry. And in that poetry are all his neighbors.
Right.
Not just his neighbors' names, but their personalities, because he's writing about their personalities. And so when I donated that to the College William Mary's collection, it was the understanding that this had value. Yes, it's family history to me, but his history had value to the whole community's history.
Right.
And those are the kind of donations I think that are so wonderful at OGS. And getting to your point about the resources that are out there, ledgers, a shout out to all of our chapters who have these ledger books and these records from their counties and are caring for them. I mean, if you're looking, here in Tuscarawas County, most of the Tuscarawas County courthouse records aren't at the courthouse anymore. They're at the Tuscarawas County Genealogical Society. So that's where you need to go there.
Items like that, we can help source and cite them and show the provenance. And, I hate to say it, a family tree with no sources and no evidence, and it's fine, but it's not the type of collection that would be of huge value, but it would be a clue, I suppose.
I think it goes back to what we talked about almost right at the beginning, which is, the OGS isn't going to pretend to have every Ohio genealogical resource, nor do we ever want to be that person. But what we do want to be is we want to be that gateway through which we can direct people who are doing their research on their Ohio roots to the correct people to help them. Absolutely. So when somebody reaches out to me about a family member in Medina, I don't pretend that we have everything about Medina at the OGS library or on the OGS website. I send them to our resources in Medina. That's how I view our role moving forward. Of course, to do that is time consuming. Because we need to know what our chapters have. And it's kind of time consuming for them because they need to let us know what they have. But that's how we serve, is that even if it's not an OGS resource, I'll send them to that. If it's a museum I know has a collection that might be worthwhile. Right. So that's how I view kind of what I hope OGS will become as we move, going down the road, and with the proper investment and support from the public and from our members, is to be able to serve that role for people, that no matter where they live, outside the United States, inside the United States. If they've hit an Ohio ancestor and they're looking for that person, I want them to reach out to us first, so that we can direct them where we think they need to go. And if it's us, super. If we have that resource, if there's an OGN article on the website, if there's a Civil War Journal article from the OGS Civil War Journal records on the website, great. I want to make sure they get that resource and support it. But if it's somebody else, I want them to get there too.
No, and I think just now you also touched on an invaluable resource that is on our website, are the OGN and OGSQ. They're periodicals that we put out. And that's something that is growing every day and a huge asset to people that are researching Ohio.
Yeah, that, and then we've got, I think, 3 or 4 older publications that are no longer in print that we make available to members on the website as well. And I harp on the Civil War one because there's so much information in that on Ohio Civil War genealogy and personalities as well, that it's just that resource alone to me is worth being a member. There are resources like that to me that make it worthwhile to be a member. When you combine them all together, to me, it seems like a no-brainer.
Well, and it's worth it to me finding one piece of strategic information, and it's crazy how much stuff we have that I'm as a board member was unaware of. Like, it grows all the time.
Well, it is a wonderful organization. I'm very proud to be associated with it. I think it's one of the best, certainly one of the best historically oriented organizations I've been a part of, and that's saying something. So I'm really pleased to be here. Lili, I want to thank you for joining us today to give your perspective on OGS from a board perspective, but also from a member. So thank you for being here on the Ohio Roots podcast, and I will see you on Saturday at our board meeting.
Well, you'll see me virtually.
Oh, that's true too. Okay, good enough.
I'll be traveling. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lili. Bye-bye. Well, I want to thank Lili McCutchan for joining us today on the Ohio Genealogical Society's Ohio Roots podcast. It was really nice to speak with her today and to share with you, our listeners, about OGS, what we do, what we're hoping to do in the future, and how you can best maybe help us in that process. So if you want to learn more about the Ohio Genealogical Society, you can visit our website at www.ogs.org. You can join there. You can donate there. We appreciate everything you do in supporting the Ohio Genealogical Society. And thank you for listening to the Ohio Roots Podcast.
The Ohio Roots Podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Genealogical Society, the premier gateway for discovering your Ohio family history. Hosted by OGS Executive Director Noel Poyer and edited by Luke Poyer. Theme song is Beautiful Ohio, recorded by Bob Stanley and his orchestra in 1944. To learn more about joining the Ohio Genealogical Society, visit www.ogs.org.